All right, we are recording. So, welcome back, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Today's topic is Sprint Zero. This came up in a previous recording, and Mark and I thought it'd be a good idea to maybe just dive a little bit deeper into what is Sprint Zero? Should teams do Sprint Zero? And all that good stuff. So, Mark, here we are. What is Sprint Zero?
Yeah, honestly, I wasn't as well versed on this term as I thought I was. I can tell you what I thought Sprint Zero was.
Yeah,
Uh, I kind of viewed it as a generic term for all kind of activities required for a team to jump into Sprint One and make that full commitment. But after researching this a little bit, I think your point of there being valid criticisms of why not to do a Sprint Zero, I kind of agree with. So why don't you kind of walk us through some of the pitfalls of why the traditional Sprint Zero, which is much more structured than I had originally thought, why that might not be such a great idea.
got it. Got it. Yeah, and my take of Sprint Zero is, you want to get started with a development team using Scrum. It's like you just need some basic stuff. You need a team, obviously. You need a backlog of some stuff. It doesn't have to be like fully fleshed out, but you need some sort of backlog that you can work with. And then you need a technical infrastructure that allows the team to just build stuff, right? So those are like the big three components that you need. And to me, Sprint Zero is the prep work to get that stuff prepared, right? Like maybe you're bringing on new team members, maybe you're composing your backlog, and maybe you're building out some technical infrastructure to get started working. And for me, not a huge fan of Sprint Zero at all. I don't think any team should use it full out. I'll just tell you that right now. And a couple of reasons are, it's not a part of the Scrum guide. There is no concept of Sprint Zero. There's no ordering to sprints. A sprint is just a container, and sprints follow one another, right? They just keep going. Two is that it kind of, in my mind, waters down the concept of what a sprint is supposed to do and what the heart of a sprint actually is. A sprint, we're supposed to, at the end of it, have a potentially releasable product increment, right? That's really the heart and soul of what the sprint's all about. And I feel like kind of defining a sprint zero, we're like, well, yeah, we're going to do some work, but we're not going to really shoot for a potentially releasable product increment. I really feel like it like waters down that spirit of Scrum. And I think that kind of sets a tone for your Scrum implementation going forward, right? We're like, oh, do we do sprint reviews or retros? Like, whatever. It's like, so I really want to have that mentality of like, no, like some of these things are very important and we need to take them seriously. And the last thing that I think teams shouldn't use Sprint Zero is that it could distract the team from using other methods that would be better suited for their situation, right? So, Mark, you've probably seen this too, where a team gets started and like, well, we're a development team, we have to use Scrum, and then they start trying to apply these Scrum concepts and topics to their situation. It just doesn't make sense. So imagine you're like trying to prepare your backlog, trying to build this technical infrastructure, and it's like some random person that's like, well, hey, we've got to use story points to estimate stuff because that's just what you do. And it's like, and then having these weird conversations of like trying to apply story points to your work, and it's just like awkward. So it's like, just take a pause and all that, take a step back, really look at your situation, think about it, clearly, and then figure out the best way to move forward. Maybe that's using Scrum, maybe it's not, but like don't blindly just apply Scrum. So that's my just quick critique on why teams should not use Sprint Zero.
Yeah, I think I agree with all those points, and especially that last one. There's definitely a danger of over application of process. It's just not warranted. Like as with everything, it should be use the process that fits what you're doing. And the real question we're answering, why even think about a Sprint Zero? Um, I think the fundamental root is you're not ready to dive into sprint planning as you would like. Like you mentioned, the backlog isn't ready. The team hasn't had architectural discussions. There's just not enough context set for the team. So rather than over apply the Scrum process, hey, let's go and water down all these things. No, we don't want to do that because the most damaging thing that might come out of that is a lack of buy-in to the Scrum process that you're trying to establish. And like with everything in Agile, if you're not delivering product to the end user, a lot of this starts to slip into slippery slope of anti-patterns that don't really get you where you're going. So you have to be careful about over applying that process.
Man, that's actually a really good point about leaving a bad taste in people's mouths about Scrum, right? It's like, you know, transitioning to more agile methods and processes is already hard enough. But if you really try to force it down a team's throat when it doesn't apply to them, like you're not doing yourself a favor, right? So just maybe just like pull back a little bit and help set expectations. So yeah, I feel like unless Mark, there's anything else you really want to call out. I mean, that's just like my take, your take. I mean, maybe like, is there like any reasons you can think of why a team might want to use Sprint Zero, right? Let's kind of like talk about the other side of it.
Having talked through it, I am not an advocate of Sprint Zero as it's laid out. Not with the formality. If you're trying to answer the question, what do we do if we can't dive in and make a sprint commitment in the traditional sense? Then I think it goes back to the things we talked about in the refinement video, as far as, okay, there's some preparation and context that needs to happen, but don't over apply process to get that done. Whittle that down to the top things you need. What do we need to jump in and do sprint one? Identify those things and stick to that.
Perfect. All right. Well, I think we nailed it. And yeah, if anyone has any questions about what we talked about, feel free to reach out to us, leave any comments in the video. And thanks for stopping by. See
Thanks,
ya.
everyone.